Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Welcome. I'm Jennifer, your tour guide for this adventure. I'm gonna wait for just a moment to start. I'm so happy to see you all here. Thank you for coming. I know Jasmine from HFC is letting some more people in from the waiting room. So I'll just give people an opportunity to move on over. And I, in the meantime, will share my slides so that you can all see the title slide here.
Mhm.
Welcome, welcome. How's my volume? Pretty good?
Yes.
Excellent. Wonderful. I like seeing that. I'm joining you today from my office at the University of Nevada, Reno.
Yay.
Go Wolfpack. Go Wolfpack.
That's my brother's alma mater.
Whoa, right on.
Yeah, I grew up in Reno.
Very good. It's the biggest little city. Lots,
Hmm.
lots to do. I'm so happy that you are all here. And I am just looking for my host from HFC because she told me that they're going to want to record this session, which is great. And it looks like it is recording. Yeah. So we are recording. So I think what I'll do is I will start right now. And so welcome everyone to this workshop, part of CareCon, called the DEAR Program in Action Building Empathy and Resilience in Care Partnerships. And today it is my honor to share with you a collaboration between the University of Nevada, Reno DEAR program, which I'll tell you more about in a minute, and HFC. We are having an awfully good time collaborating and really trying our best to help support care partners in building resilience and empathy and understanding to help support them in their very important roles of supporting people who are living with dementia. A little bit more of an introduction about myself, I think, is warranted, especially because I'm going to say some things today that might be a little bit challenging. So,
Yeah.
so I am a clinical associate professor in the School of Public Health
Oh
at UNC.
God.
And oh, I heard an oh God.
Oh, sorry.
That was
Excuse
either
me. So sorry.
not a fan of academia. Just that's okay. My students say the same thing. But I will ask if everyone could kindly
I'm gonna mute.
themselves. Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm an associate professor, founding director of our Dementia Engagement Education and Research Program, which is a program within the School of Public Health as well. I am a public health gerontologist and a participatory action researcher, which means that the kind of research I do is not on people living with dementia and care partners, but conducted in partnership with people living with dementia and care partners who serve as my co-researchers. I'm very committed to authentic partnerships and believe wholeheartedly in a nothing about us without us approach to anything that we're doing within the context of dementia care and support. I want to note that before I joined academia 10 years ago, for 30 years, I worked as a professional care partner in residential care and support. And so I've been supporting people living with dementia professionally for almost 4 decades. It'll be 40 years next year that I've been supporting people living with dementia. And boy, can I tell you, things have really changed for the better. Today's dementia is not what it was when I started in the field 40 years ago.
I could imagine.
Yeah, thank goodness. I am also a family care partner, like many of you. And what an interesting experience it is to take the lessons that I teach, to take the findings of my own research, and to put all of that to practice in the life of my own dad. And so in the left-hand corner there is a photo of my dad. I lost him last year. His name is Ray Arand. And my dad lived very well with Lewy body and vascular dementia. He was diagnosed in 2016, but we believe living with dementia far longer than that. And I want you to know that my dad continued to live life on his terms with the support primarily of my brother, who's pictured with me in the top left-hand corner, and myself. My dad and my brother have taught me volumes about what I'm about to share with you. And so I think it's important to contextualize that I'm not an ivory tower academic. I am a person who has essentially spent more of her life supporting people living with dementia than not. I am an advocate as well. I am a researcher and an advocate. My research and advocacy focuses on dementia inclusion and a human rights-based, relationship-centered approach to supporting people living with dementia and always receiving what they need in the least restrictive environment and on their own terms to the greatest extent possible. And then I'm also on the side a musician and a storyteller, but I bring these activities into my research. I do arts-based research with people living with dementia. And I really believe in the power of song and story to build connection and spark social change. And as a part of this workshop, we're going to explore together the power of story and think about the kinds of stories that we've been telling ourselves within the context of dementia. And we're going to reflect on how helpful or damaging are some of those stories. And more importantly, how can we change the story? I am an optimist. It is true. I'm a critical researcher, but I am an optimist. I believe in the radical power of presence, power, love, and hope. And so instead of perpetuating a tragedy narrative of dementia, I aim to help people living with dementia and care partners connect with and harness the power of hope, hope that you can live well with dementia. So I founded the DEAR program back in 2018 with this idea that really dementia should be a public health priority. We're one of the only schools of public health in the country that has a focused research program on dementia. And our role here is to build capacity. And we do that at three different levels. The individual level by teaching people about dementia. We actually host a dementia self-management program on Zoom. So we teach people who have recently been diagnosed with a dementia-related condition what dementia is and how they might live well with it. We build capacity by training entire organizations, entire healthcare systems. And then we build capacity at the community level through initiatives like Dementia Friendly Nevada, which has a home base right here in the DEAR program. We have the honor of supporting 9 different community coalitions around the state who are actively working to become more dementia friendly and inclusive. And so I'd encourage you, when you get a chance, check out our website because it's filled with an abundance of free resources. And so everything we do is grant and gift funded, which means that we have the opportunity to make those resources publicly, freely available to people around the globe. So I hope you'll check us out. We are a small team. As you can, this is it. There's 3 of us and only 2 work full time. And so we are a tiny little team of 4. But let me tell you, through this little team of 4, our service impact last year was over 8,000. The only way a little team of 4 can have that kind of service impact is through partnerships and collaboration. And we are honored to be a partner of HFC and to help amplify their message. And we were having a really good time doing it. So we love to partner with organizations. It's the only way that that we are able to make this kind of impact, not just in the state of Nevada, but across the globe. We like to align with organizations like HFC that are aligned in mission and values. And so the kinds of partnerships that get us really excited are the partnerships where we have the same values. And so if you look on the DEAR program's website, you'll see our values listed here. They're on the slide. And but what I really would love to do is invite you in the chat box to reflect on just 5 of these values and to consider how well these values align with your values and your beliefs about dementia. And what we believe at the DEAR program is that people living with dementia can live well. We believe it is possible to live well. We believe that partnering with people living with dementia opens a world of possibilities. It is those partnerships that help us create innovations that make sense in the lives of people living with dementia and care partners. We believe that if we can have proactive upstream approaches to care and support, that we reduce the need for reactive downstream interventions. And wouldn't that just be great if we could proactively support people so that they're not in distress? Valerie's, I'm seeing good thumbs up. Right on. I love it. We believe in honoring the person before the task and the process over the outcome. And when we do that, when we put the person before the task and honor the process of truly partnering instead of just the outcome we're trying to achieve, that we produce a better and more equitable result, right? Person before task, process over outcome. And we believe, and this is a fun one, we believe that if you want to change the culture of dementia, which I think we can all probably agree need some changing, you have to change the story. If you want to change the culture, you have to change the story. This is an interesting value. And I want to share some examples with you about what we mean here and why it is so critically important that we help care partners and people living with dementia access a different story, and why organizations like HFC are so important, because they are telling a different story. So I'm going to show a short video clip for all of you. And this video comes from the Alzheimer's Society in the UK. And so you may not have seen this story before because it's not on television that I know of here in the US. But what I want to invite you to reflect on or to use the chat box to respond to this question: what story does this public service announcement tell about dementia? What is the story here? The title of this is called The Long Goodbye, if that gives you some preliminary insights into the story that we're about to watch.
Mum first died on the 12th of May 2019 when she couldn't work out how to prepare a legendary roast anymore. The style icon of the Covington estate. Mum died as a fashionista the day she couldn't get dressed into her colourful outfits. Oh, it's okay. Take your time. Some of the outfits we'll all be glad to see the back of. She died as the Queen of Christmas when she refused to have dinner with the family. She died again when she asked me, her son, what my name was. She died as Dad's rock after 52 years of marriage, the day she looked straight through him. On the 10th of March 2024, Mum died the final time, surrounded by her family.
With dementia, you don't just die once. You die again and again and again. Which is why at Alzheimer's Society, we'll be with you again and again and again.
That is a very difficult video, and I'm very grateful that this video is not aired in the United States where my dad could have seen it. What story is this video telling people about what it means to live with dementia and what it means to be a care partner of a person who is living with dementia? So feel free in the chat box to share your interpretation of what is this story. I'm looking dark and grim. It's all loss. Yeah, I mean, this is a really devastating, tragic story. My gosh, that living with dementia, you die again and again and again. And we wonder why more people don't seek a diagnosis. Interesting. I'm not trying to pick on the UK. Trust me, lots of organizations in the United States are telling the same story. Okay, telling the same story. And who does it serve? By contrast, I want to share another PSA. This one was developed by the DEAR program in partnership with members of Dementia Friendly Nevada and organizations who were a part of that network, and most importantly, developed in partnership with people living with dementia and family care partners. And again, in the chat box, I'll ask you to reflect on what story does this PSA tell? What is the story told here?
I think about what if, but focus on what is. What is good, is worth celebrating, is another part of our story. I know it's okay to ask for help when the heart becomes too big. I think back on the many days that you were there for me. What if, what is, whatever comes our way.
What story does this video tell about the experience of supporting a loved one living with dementia? What's the story here? And wow, how radically different it is from the previous story, right? It's all in the relationship. Yes, Corky. Yes, it's about relationships. There's reciprocity, right? And yes, there's some uncertainty, and we're not trying to candy coat it or be Pollyannas. Sometimes it does get hard and you need help, right? But it is, oh, I love it. It's a positive way, of looking at it, that you can still have a positive relationship, that the experience will vary, that it honor and enjoy the moments we still have. So let me give you another story. This is another story developed by the DEAR program in partnership with members of Dementia Friendly Nevada. This story is told from the perspective of a person who has been diagnosed with a dementia-related condition. What story? And again, these were PSAs developed in partnership with people living with dementia. These are the stories our partners want people to know. Here's a new story.
I choose to see this diagnosis of mine as a new beginning. A comma, not a period. Things may not be the same. They were never meant to. Life is punctuated by change, written by choice. I choose to see this story of mine as a new chapter. There are more pages to turn.
What is this story telling us? What is this story saying? Yeah, focus on abilities, not disabilities. Yeah, acceptance, moving forward with hope and a more positive outlook. The individual still exists and is self-aware. Yes, a positive attitude is so important. It's not the end of the road. It may be a detour, but it's not the end. The person is involved in their own care. There's more adventures. You can still enjoy life. These are the stories that the DEAR program wants to tell. These are the stories HFC wants to help people have access to. These are the stories that can help people know that you can live well. And again, these are stories written by the experts of lived experience, people who are living with dementia and care partners themselves. So the stories that we tell ourselves about who we are and what is possible shape our culture. And it's really important that we kind of reflect on what are the stories we tell ourselves about dementia? What are the stories you tell yourself about dementia? And it's important because the assumptions and the beliefs that we hold about dementia influence the way we approach, regard, and interact with people who are living with dementia and the opportunities that are then afforded to people who are living with dementia. And so, what kind of opportunities are we going to develop and offer when the world only views dementia as a complex, unknowable world of doom and a fate worse than death? What kind of opportunities are we going to afford to people living with dementia if we see people living with dementia as dying again and again, over and over and over? The truth is none, not much, right? So we have to change our mindset, our dementia mindset, to help support people and to have opportunities for living well with dementia. Now, this mindset, we kind of come by it honestly. It is shaped by our culture. It is shaped by a predominant biomedical view of dementia that tends to reduce people to their diagnosis, right? You are no longer Jennifer Carson, you are a person living with dementia, or you're just a dementia sufferer, if we're being honest about the story that people tell, right? It reduces people to their diagnosis, and then that results in very impersonal care and support often because we're not seeing the person behind the diagnosis. Instead, what we need is person-directed, relationship-centered approaches that honor the contributions people living with dementia can still make in their own lives, in the lives of their families, and in the lives of their communities. To quote a dear friend of mine, a geriatrician and an author of a great book called Dementia Beyond Disease, Dr. Al Power says, if we want to change the culture of dementia, we need to change our minds about people whose minds have changed. We have to change our minds about people whose minds have changed. And viewing dementia through more of a social relational perspective instead of a biomedical perspective is a really good place for us to start this changing for a new story, right? I was taught the biomedical view of dementia as a healthcare professional. This was the view that I was taught in my academic training. It's the view that most people are taught. But there's another view that is being promoted by people living with dementia themselves, the social relational view of dementia. And I'm just going to quickly walk us through a couple differences here. The biomedical view tells us that dementia is tragic, progressive, and fatal. I'm not telling you that that's untrue. I'm telling you that view is limiting. My dad lived well with dementia post-diagnosis for over 8 years. I have a book on the bookcase behind me written by Christine Bryden about her 20 years of dementia self-advocacy. She wrote a book about her experience as a person living with dementia 20 years after her diagnosis. If you're going to live with dementia like a chronic condition, not like a fatal disease, but more like a chronic condition, then wouldn't it be good if people stopped only seeing you as living with something tragic, progressive, and fatal? People living with dementia have a lot of life left to live. So I love, instead of seeing dementia in that frame, what if we just saw dementia as a shift in a person's perception and experience of the world? They're living in the world with a cognitive difference, a cognitive disability, and disability should be accommodated according to the Americans with Disabilities Act. We build physical ramps in our communities. Where are the cognitive ramps? In a biomedical view, we really focus on treatments and interventions, right? We're trying to fix problems. In a social relational view, we take a more proactive stance and we focus on supporting people in living well so that they don't need the reactive interventions. In a biomedical view, I was taught that as a healthcare professional, I was the expert and I was called a caregiver. And my role, I guess, was to very paternalistically or maternalistically make decisions in the best interests of the people I supported. From a social relational view, people living with dementia are encouraging us, professionals and family members alike, to engage in shared decision making to the greatest extent possible, to be care or support partners, not givers. Instead of seeing, there's this rumor that people living with dementia have behaviors, right? And that it's just an inevitable part of the disease pathology. And so if we see behaviors through that lens, then we often try to treat these behaviors with drugs, right? Or non-pharmacological interventions, but mostly drugs. From a social relational view, what we understand is a lot of what the biomedical world is labeling as behaviors are actually communications of distress and unmet needs. And a person is trying their darndest to communicate through the means available that something is not going well. And if we just think, oh, it's the pathology of the dementia that's doing that, we're going to give that person a drug instead of seeking the underlying cause of distress, which means we are not going to meet the person's unmet needs. I used to be a therapeutic recreation specialist when I worked in residential care. I was taught that activities for people living with dementia should always be structured. They should be stage appropriate, based on the global deterioration scale, and they should be failure free. Whatever you do, don't give somebody living with dementia something to do that might not go well. People living with dementia in my research have told me very clearly to stop doing that, to stop turning their entire life into a therapy, to therapizing all aspects of daily life. Instead, people living with dementia have told me that they have a fundamental human right to have experiences that are personally meaningful. And that when we reduce meaningful engagement into a series of therapeutic modalities, that we are sucking the joy out of a lot of those experiences. From a biomedical view, we are taught that people living with dementia are fading away, or worse, as you saw in that video, that they are dying over and over and over and over again. From a social relational view, again, coming from people living with dementia, they want us to know they are living with dementia. Living every single day. They are not dying over and over and over again. They are living right now with every breath they take. And people living with dementia want us to know that they can continue to grow. Now, sometimes growth in the context of dementia looks a little bit differently. It may not be acquisition of a new skill, right? Might not be memorizing some piece of, factual information. But I'm going to tell you what a friend of mine said. Dr. Richard Taylor, who lived with Alzheimer's disease, wrote a great book called Alzheimer's from the Inside Out. He was a psychologist reflecting on his experience as a person living with dementia. And he said, as my dementia progresses, my humanity increases. As my dementia progresses, my humanity increases. Dr. Richard Taylor believed that Alzheimer's disease was making him not just a better psychologist, but a better person. And that is growth in the context of dementia. Again, I'm not trying to demonize the biomedical model. I still draw on it sometimes in my work, in my practice, and in my dad's life. But what is important to know is if you only see the world of dementia through the lens of biomedicine, it's like trying to operate and navigate with one eye closed, right? It's limiting. What happens if we only use that biomedical perspective is that we start judging people living with dementia through that lens. So instead of Jennifer loving to walk, which I do as soon as I have a dementia-related diagnosis, my walking every day is seen as very problematic, and I'm pretty quickly labeled a wanderer, right? Which is a stigmatizing label. And when people then are labeled and stigmatized, it limits the choices and opportunities that are then available to them. And that results in social inequality, right? As people living with dementia are protected at great lengths by loving people, right, who believe they're doing the right thing, but really they're just don't realize they may be operating in the context of care and support with only a biomedical view of dementia instead of that social relational view. This fails to recognize and limits the contributions people living with dementia can then make in their own lives, the lives of their family, the lives of their communities, as they are overprotected and often segregated or put in secured environments. It results in people living with dementia feeling ignored, silenced, overlooked, overprotected. And then one of the saddest things I've seen in my 40-year career is when people living with dementia themselves internalize these judgments and use these to then judge themselves. People living with dementia have told me countless times that it's not the dementia causing the suffering, but the social response to their dementia that causes the most suffering. Mm-hmm. And this is what they're talking about. This is what they're talking about. So I encourage people, open both eyes. I'm not saying ignore the biomedical perspective, but I think we all do better when we navigate the world with both eyes open. As you've heard in some of my language, I do believe that language is never neutral and that the words we use to a certain extent create worlds for people living with dementia. The words we use build lived realities. If you refer to a person living with dementia as a sufferer or a patient, then that's the role people will take on. Instead of person living with dementia, person living with cognitive changes. Instead of referring to dementia-related behaviors, what if instead we started, anytime we want to use the word behavior, what if we use the word distress? Wow, my dad's really having some distress. Instead of, wow, my dad's really having some behaviors. One word will lead me to wondering what the heck is going on and trying to help my dad to not be in distress. The other word is going to make me reach for a pill. Instead of caregiver, care partner, support partner, but honestly, my dad always just called me his daughter, right? Instead of wandering, which implies kind of like this meaningless wandering about. And by the way, I wander through parks all the time. It's kind of nice, but wandering in the context of dementia tends to be a negative term. But what if we just used normal words to refer to the actions of people living with dementia? How would it change things if we just said, yeah, my dad loves to walk. People need to move around. My dad wants to go somewhere or find someone. Instead of referring to the stress at the end of the day as sundowning, which again makes it sound inevitable, like it's something going on. And it is true. A person living with dementia has a progressively lowered stress threshold. But what people refer to as sundowning is actually usually what's happened is somebody's crossed their stress threshold. And often it's after an accumulation of stress across the course of a day. And so what doesn't stress somebody out at 8 a.m. just might stress them out at 8 o'clock at night, right? If we only refer to this as sundowning, it gives this impression that it's just a part of the dementia. If we talk about sundowning as the accumulation of stress across the course of a day, that we recognize opportunities to modify that experience, to reduce the distress, right? And here's my latest beef. Often, what television keeps talking about is agitation and Alzheimer's disease, which I swear, I scream at the television as though it can hear me. I get so upset when I see these commercials. Do you know what often is causing agitation in the context of Alzheimer's is a suboptimal social or physical care environment. It's a communication of distress or unmet need. And we're blaming the people living with dementia. And we're giving people this language now, agitation and dementia, which is going to lead care partners to reach or to request an antipsychotic that has very dangerous side effects and very little clinical efficacy. Words create worlds, and sometimes these worlds create increased mortality. So the lesson here, in a nutshell, is if we want to change the culture of dementia, if we want to radically improve the experience of living with dementia, we have got to move away from the stigma and from the tragedy narrative of dementia toward empathy and resilience and hope. And the DEAR program found an incredible partner in HFC. They are aligned in mission, in telling a new story, in bringing light to Alzheimer's. And we are honored and thrilled and energized to be their partner in this quest. What are we doing together? Well, last year, we worked together to take a comprehensive training program developed by the DEAR program called DEAR Care Partner Training, and to revise it together to bring a little of that HFC magic, if you will, into the DEAR Care Partner Training. We provided it for free online, and then we evaluated it. So we piloted this revised program, and we offered this to professional care partners. And it's very much aligned with everything I just shared, a whole different approach to being a care partner. But we invited family care partners to join us as well, and even people living with dementia. And isn't that great? People living with dementia have a right to learn about care partnering as well. And so we trialed it, we piloted it, and then we revised it based on that experience. We brought those revisions to a group of people living with dementia convened by the DEAR program. And we asked people living with dementia to please review this 12-hour curriculum and give us their feedback on what they like, what they don't like, where we should put more attention, maybe where we could dial it back. I want to say a special thanks to the DEAR program's Bradlyn Weissert and Casey Venturini for their hard work on this program, and also HFC's Alex Villano and Jasmine Zinnerman for their incredible work in launching this and making revisions. This year, what we're doing now is we are adapting that DEAR Care Partner training into a brand new training that we're just getting ready to offer nationwide for free on Zoom with a new name, Duet. The Duet, a relationship-centered dementia care training. We are launching this in April. It's going to be free online on Zoom. I hope you'll all come. And we're going to evaluate the program, hopefully submit some peer-reviewed publications about its effectiveness. It is a comprehensive, culturally competent, relationship-centered dementia care training. We target primarily professional care partners, but again, family care partners, people living with dementia, and other community members are more than welcome to join us. And we love it when they do. But why Duet? That is kind of a funny name. I am a singer on the side. I have a rock and roll band. I love to sing. It's an expression of joy. I'm not very good, but that doesn't matter. But it's not Duet because I love music. A duet, if you think about it, is not a solo performance. nor is it a hierarchy of leader and follower. It is a shared responsive relationship when you're singing a duet with someone. Each person brings their own voice, history, strengths, and vulnerabilities. And beautiful music emerges not from control, but when we listen to each other, when we attune to one another. Those mutual adjustments are what create such a beautiful song. And I was mentioning care partner instead of caregiver really recognizes that genuine care does not just flow in one direction, and it never has. It never has. Even when I'm caring for a plant in my house, my plant gives something back to me, right? Genuine care is based on reciprocity. It's a shared exchange. And so relationship-centered dementia care partner training really underscores the importance of mutuality, respect, and also well-being among everyone in the circle of care. If a family care partner or professional care partner is experiencing ill-being, how could they possibly support the well-being of another person? They can't. So in Duet, what we teach is that the care partner, the family care partner, the professional care partner's well-being is every bit as important as the well-being of the person living with dementia. And the well-being is a reciprocal experience. Another geriatrician and author, Dr. Bill Thomas, actually says that reciprocity is the most elemental form of justice. There needs to be reciprocity in the context of dementia care. And that's what we're teaching. And when we partner with people living with dementia, we are intentionally opening spaces for their contributions. I first learned about care partnerships. I used to be a caregiver earlier in my career. And then it was about 2005, maybe, that I read this book by Christine Bryden, who, by the way, is the one who wrote the book about her 20 years of dementia self-advocacy. Christine wrote this beautiful book called Dancing with Dementia, My Story of Living Positively with Dementia. That's the story she continues to tell today. And Christine said we need to move away from labeling ourselves caregiver and sufferer toward becoming a care partnership in which we accept, collaborate, and adapt to new roles within the journey of dementia. And in this care partnership, the person with dementia is at the center of the relationship, yeah, but not alone as an object to be looked at, not merely as a care recipient. Instead, we become an active partner in a circle of care, an active partner. Christine Bryden, A Call for Care Partnerships. When we work in authentic partnerships with people living with dementia, we do something better than just protect personhood. We mobilize active citizenship. What you see on the slide here is what we would call Dr. Tom Kitwood's domains of personhood: comfort, identity, occupation, inclusion, attachment, love. Those are all very good things, right? Personhood is very important. But when we actively partner with a person living with dementia, we do something so important. Instead of just comfort, we provide opportunities for growth. Instead of just honoring someone's identity, we help them have a social position. Instead of just keeping someone busy or occupied, we connect them with a genuine purpose. Instead of just including people living with dementia at the table, we support their genuine participation. Instead of just helping people living with dementia to feel attached, when we work in partnership, we help people experience a sense of solidarity with others. And yes, love is so important. People living with dementia need love. I need love. You need love. But what people living with dementia say they also need is freedom from discrimination. And when we partner with people living with dementia, we can help support that freedom from discrimination. And then finally, Duet So Duet puts these ideas together. It's a relationship-centered approach to dementia care that is grounded in D, dignity, U, uniqueness. E is for lived experience. And then T is about togetherness. And it reminds us that care partnering is not about mastery or perfection, but about staying attuned to one another as we move forward side by side, even as the music changes. The objectives of our training are to help prepare care partners to remain present, responsive, and in relationship, recognizing that care is not something that you do to another person. It is something that is co-created. In this training, we aim to cultivate cultural humility and relational awareness as well, in a way that really honors each person's identity, their cultural influences, their community, and a sense of belonging. And we are really trying to help care partners practice care partnering as a duet. And you can see our duet framework there. That framework actually provides the framework for the 4 3-hour modules that are part of this comprehensive 12-hour training. So each time somebody logs on for this training, it's a 3-hour training, and we explore one aspect of this framework: dignity, uniqueness, experience, and together. This framework and this training is built on the backbone of an evidence-based training that I developed in partnership with the Nevada Department of Veteran Services and the Perry Foundation here in Nevada, a relationship-centered, culturally competent care partner training for care partners of veterans living with dementia. And so many aspects of Duet are similar to Bravo Zulu is the name of that training. Bravo Zulu, Achieving Excellence in Relationship-Centered Dementia Care. Bravo Zulu, another 12-hour training program. And we've been able to study Bravo Zulu. We have not yet been able to study, but we aim to Duet. But what I could tell you about the effectiveness of Bravo Zulu is that it produced among 182 participants who engaged in that training, it produced statistically significant increases in their personhood beliefs, in their reframing of dementia. And it also showed statistically significant increases in care partner sense of self-efficacy in a variety of different situations that are often challenging for care partners. And so care partners really felt like they had better skills and knowledge to be able to respond to some of those challenges. And all of that was despite a pretty big ceiling effect coming in. So in other words, of these 182 people who came and took the training, they already had pretty high personhood beliefs and self-efficacy. What's cool is that Bravo Zulu still created statistically significant improvements, meaning that it's very innovative. And so it took best practices and pushed them even further. So we like that. Bravo Zulu and Duet have a shared theoretical or philosophical basis. And so both programs build on the work of Dr. Tom Kitwood's person-centered care, Dr. Mike Nolan's relationship-centered care. These are evidence-based frameworks. We bring in the human rights literature and actually teach people about the laws that protect the rights of people living with dementia to have a say in the decisions that impact their lives. And then we teach people about cultural competence, cultural humility, things like implicit and explicit bias, and the ways that those could play out in care if we're not careful. The other thing that's different, unlike what I am doing right now, ironically, I'm giving a lecture with a PowerPoint. What we know is that this often generates pretty low knowledge retention. And what we want to do is have sustainable learning outcomes. And so Duet is not a traditional training. It has been developed using the principles of dialogue education. And so instead of lectures, we engage in learning activities throughout those 12 hours. opportunities for participants to draw on their own knowledge and wisdom, to engage with the content, to apply it, to consider how they're going to use it in their own lives. Instead of a monologue like I'm doing now for just for efficiency and time, duet is dialogue throughout. We say we should teach people the way that we hope they'll show up in the context of dementia support, right? And so it's dialogue throughout. We treat it as a learning partnership. Instead of passive engagement, everyone keeps their cameras on. We talk, it's active engagement. We don't deliver content. We do deliver some content, but the participants help develop content with us. And I can tell you our evaluation is, I don't have time to present the data here for you all now, but it was off the charts positive, unanimously positive. So people really love it. And so just to show you, for instance, how we engage people, if we're in module 3 talking about the person's lived experience, one of our key concepts we teach is that most so-called behaviors are expressions of distress or unmet needs, something I just shared with all of you. And so our primary goal should always be proactively supporting well-being. That's a really good strategy. So we teach a couple of frameworks for thinking about what does it mean to support somebody's well-being. Like that's a big concept. How do you know if you're doing it? So sometimes it's helpful to take those big concepts and to break them down into their component parts so that we can reflect on it and talk about it. One framework we teach comes from my own participatory action research with people living with dementia, who said as long as we can support these 7 meaningful experiences, they can live well with dementia. Wonderful framework that we teach. A second framework we teach comes from the Eden Alternative, and a reconfiguration of their framework by Dr. Al Power. He shares this hierarchy in his book, Dementia Beyond Drugs, and says, you know, there's 7 domains of well-being, but really if we're not doing a good job of supporting someone's sense of identity and connectedness, you're never going to be able to support those additional domains. So it's kind of like Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Like, make sure you're doing identity. And if you don't know the person really well and you don't have a relationship with them, how on earth are you going to support those other domains of well-being? So he writes about this. So we give these different frameworks and then we invite participants. Think of these domains of well-being like glasses. How full or how empty is each glass if you think about an individual's domains of well-being? So literally we give them a worksheet and they do this. They think about a person they know really well. They reflect on each domain of well-being. They draw a line to indicate the amount of well-being in each glass. We remind everyone the glasses are refillable. That's good news. And if the glasses are empty, the person's going to be in distress. And there's no pill on the planet that is going to fill the glass. Okay? No pill is going to fill the glass. It's up to us to work in partnership with the person living with dementia to figure out how we could refill those empty glasses. And we always tell people, remember, ideally, when you're using this in practice, you would use this worksheet in partnership with the person living with dementia and not make assumptions about their experience. But in the classroom, for the sake of an activity, we make some assumptions and then we talk about it. You know, what insights did you gain? What opportunities do you see that exist for improvement? What's something you could do right now to maybe make a difference in this person's well-being? So this is what I mean by active engagement. And so then the next module, if you believe that most behaviors, so-called behaviors, are expressions of distress, how might that belief change some of your other care partnering practices? And so in module 4, which is about being together through communication, inclusion, and participation, we explored this idea of redirection. We critique it. And we're like, okay, well, wait a second. If we know that so-called behaviors are expressions of unmet need, but all we're doing is redirecting a person, how is that helping us meet the person's unmet need? When you redirect a person, it's kind of like saying, I'm going to disregard that you have a need here, and instead I'm just going to distract you into doing what I want you to do, right? What we teach in duet care partner training is to recognize and explore unmet needs with an intent to understand them and then hopefully to meet those unmet needs. Distracting somebody or redirecting them with a cookie, or let's look through a box of trinkets. As soon as you're done eating the cookie or looking through the trinkets, that unmet need's not going to magically meet itself, right? If Mary was going out and we don't want Mary to go out alone and we distract her with some redirection approach, after that redirection is over, guess what Mary's going to go do again? We haven't done anything to meet the unmet need. And so we teach people to explore unmet needs. If we're only redirecting people living with dementia, it kind of perpetuates a power over relationship and mentality, and it's not helping us meet people's needs. Instead, what we teach Dear Care Partner / Duet, it's a brand new name. I haven't quite gotten my lips around it yet. In Duet Care Partner, we teach care partners how to foster an equitable relationship that helps us meet unmet needs. And so, how do we actively engage? Well, we discuss together how dementia affects communication. How do we pick up on emotional cues? We use really fun improvisational activities to teach care partners how to support their messaging with really good nonverbal communication. We watch video role plays of exchanges and identify differences between positive and negative interactions. We also provide step-by-step guidance for really helpful communication approaches like empathic curiosity and validation. We demonstrate the power of silence, and how important it is to patiently wait in our communications to give people an opportunity to process what we have said and to formulate and respond on their own. And in all of this, what we're encouraging care partners to do is to suspend their own agendas. Put your agenda aside so that you can actually be present to figure out what this person might want or need. And so our inaugural offering of Duet, now that we've done all this work, our inaugural offering of Duet will be this April, Wednesdays in April on Zoom, April 8th, 15th, 22nd, and 29th. 12 o'clock Eastern or 9 o'clock Pacific. This is free. You can register for this on HFC's website. I put a little QR code there. I don't think the registration page is open quite yet, but it will be. If you're not available Wednesdays in April, don't worry, because we're going to have offerings in May and June as well. And so it's once a week for 3 hours. And so with that, what I'd love to do, I'm going to drop a little flyer about the DEAR program in the chat box, just to tell you a little bit more about some of the free resources that we offer, including, as I mentioned at the beginning, a freely available dementia self-management guidebook written by people living with dementia for people living with dementia or cognitive changes. It looks like this in hard copy. The ADA compliant download version is also available online for free. We don't sell these. We give them out for free. So far, we've provided 8,000 copies of this guidebook written by my 6 partners here. So I hope you'll check it out. It's a fabulous resource. And so I'm going to put those flyers in the chat box. I want to thank HFC for being incredible partners. It's just such a joy to work with them. I'm so happy that they're supporting this new culturally competent relationship-centered program for care partners. And I hope it really helps us change the story of dementia. And I'm grateful to each of you for being here. And with that, I will shut my screen so I could find that flyer and share it with you in the chat box. And happy to hang out for any questions or comments that anyone might have. Feel free just to take yourself off mute if that's helpful.
Oh, this one was good.
Any questions, comments? I hope maybe you'll consider coming.
Yeah, I think this is Terry Schuster. I thought it was really interesting because in all of the learning that I've done, it's redirect, redirect. And it was really great when you said, well, there are unmet needs here. That's kind of why some of these things might be happening. So, yeah, and I really, wow, that's really good. Also, it is much better to say care partner than caregiver. And, it's so much easier to say caregiver because everybody understands that.
Yeah.
And dovetailing on that, language is oh so important because I loved when you said instead of saying my father or whomever, my loved one likes to wander. Oh, my loved one likes to walk. My loved one likes to walk around, and you start to smile because yeah, they like to walk around. Okay, they don't really know where they're going, but they're walking, so good for them.
That's
So yeah, and
right.
it changes in your mind. It changes how you view it. So yeah, and language, of course, is also very important, as we know in all aspects of life. Yeah, this was really good. Thank you. You don't look
Thank
old
you.
enough to be doing this 40 years. So, I mean, I'll take your word for it, but not really.
That's so
So,
funny. I started working in nursing homes when I was a high school student. And
wow.
so 1987 was my first job in a nursing home. And my mom was my charge nurse. They probably wouldn't allow that these days. And I have to
Whatever.
I'll tell on myself, Terry, that I used to be the queen of redirection when I helped open the first memory care community in Washington State back in the
Oh,
and I used to do redirection all the time. And what I have found, though, practically speaking, is how ineffective it really has been. But know that I don't critique anything that I have not tried myself. And so it's kind of more like a confessional sometimes. And I think that's important for all of us because human lives are at stake. And so to take that reflexive stance to be able to say, wow, is what I'm doing helpful? Can it be improved? Is, great. And to know that people are being trained by people with big titles to do practices that are not helpful. And so it's
right.
really up to each one of us to kind of figure out what's really helpful here and to know that the professionals don't have all the answers clearly because there's a lot of really bad practices happening.
Right. And that's why it's called practice.
That's why it's
I learned that from a doctor. That's why we call it the practice of medicine. I was like, oh, that is just wow. Like, wow. So yeah.
When we
thank
do
you.
work
Thanks.
together, we will change the culture.
Yes.
So
Yes, we will.
thank you again.
Corky, thank you. I'm so glad you came. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We're glad we're glad too. Thank you for echoing how we try to partner.
Awesome.
It's an uphill battle.
Yeah.
I just recently placed my wife in an assisted living facility, and we had looked at it early on when she was in the earlier stage, and so she was all part of the decision making. And one of the things that really motivated both of us to stay committed to that particular program is my wife was a nurse administrator for 28 years, and what they do there is they have her do like walk with them when they're doing rounds or walk through the building with that intent that her walk changes, everything about her, how she holds her body changes. And that was one of the largest pieces that went into the decision about her going in at this particular time, because of just having that meaning. Adding that dimension of meaning to her life has been so profound, and I very much got a lot out of your program, because I think that the medical models and both my wife and I come out of the addiction treatment systems, and the medical model didn't proved to be less effective than the more integrative, culturally competent. You can do all the terms that started to inform it, but just a real person-centered and uplifting and a restorative process versus a fixing process. And so thank you very much for this.
Thank you for sharing, Valerie. And I hope maybe you'll consider coming to one of our 12-hour trainings and maybe spread the word with the staff members who work at your wife's community. It's open to everyone. And
Yes,
thank you for sharing.
I'll definitely spread the word with my colleagues. I'm an occupational therapist, retired.
Oh, Corey, thank you.
I was wondering if you're going to develop a program or have a program where you would teach like people like me, like the occupational therapist, how to train other people like waiters and waitresses in dementia-friendly communities so that they would know how to interact when a family would come in with their dementia family member, so that the dining experience could be more positive and positive for everybody else that's in the restaurant, as well as people who don't have behavioral problems or people with dementia in their families dining at the same time.
Great question. Which state do you live in?
Massachusetts.
And they have so most states now have a program called Dementia Friends.
Okay.
And it's a national program, but every state has a licensee. And it's a high quality 90-minute information session. It only takes 4 hours to become a trainer, or what they call a Dementia Friends champion. And in 4 hours, you become a Dementia Friends champion and take this national curriculum to restaurants to train the servers how to be dementia friendly and inclusive. And they have special guides for different sectors of the community. They have a guide for banks, restaurants, or retail, transportation sector. And it's in multiple languages. And so if you look on Dementia Friends USA's website and find out who the state licensee is for Massachusetts, they can help you get connected. It's an excellent program. We use it here in Nevada for that purpose. We train TSA agents,
Yeah, right,
so,
yeah.
And it takes people, volunteers, to go out and become champions of that curriculum and to help spread the word so that we could create inclusive communities. So thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you. Okay, I'll look that up. Dementia Friends.
Dementia Friends USA.
USA. Okay, great. Thank you so much. This was excellent. Thank you.
I just want to say thank you. It's Sarah. I joined late because I was in another group that never started. So I missed a front portion of it. But what I feel that I heard in the parts that I was here is it introduces back the humanity into our people. They're still there, like Teepa Snow and her program. It's almost like, her GEMS program about the oyster. And even though it's like gnarly and awful on the outside, the pearl, the essence of the person is still in there somewhere. And if it's through music or hand holding or rocking or, all of our people, it's my mom that I partner with. And it's just, it's pivoting to another way to look at something, glass half full, glass half empty, whatever any of those silly sayings are. But I'm so sorry I missed the first part, and I can't wait to watch the recording of your whole presentation because it really touched my heart. So thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. That means a lot to me. And I hope maybe you'll consider joining us for the 12-hour version.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
I wrote it all down and that's certainly a possibility. It's a lot, it's about having the bandwidth to be able to find the balance to care for myself as well, because it's really hard. My mom is very, I think one of the things that resonated the most is talking about knowing what they need when they can't say what they need. And my mom, she's incontinent and bedridden, and when they my people move her, roll her. She screams, but I think it's what is she really trying to tell us? And hospice wants to medicate her, like you said. Everybody wants to throw drugs at it. And I'm like, no, she still has laughter and joy. And, and how do we know, like playing God, when do we know is the moment that we do have to medicate? Because I think that time might come, but they're impossible choices and decisions to have to make on a regular basis.
Yeah. It is a very it's so complex.
Yeah.
And I navigated that complexity with my dad, and can say he before I lost my dad, it was a beautiful moment of perfect clarity, where he just said, "Thank you, Jenny, for all that you've done for me."
Wow.
And
Wow.
yeah, and I
And
got
what a gift, right?
what an honor. I
Honor,
mean,
right?
it's
Awesome.
like one of the
Awesome.
most important things I will ever do in my life,
Me too.
is support my parents.
Yeah. And who knew? I didn't know. Like, I didn't know this would be the path. And I'm grateful that, because let's not, financial's part of it too. Like, not everybody has the privilege to be able to do it in the way that I'm doing it with my mom, and she can afford to be in a place, and she has long-term care insurance, and there's so many components to it. So and it's not a comparison, who's this, who's that, who can do, I honor everybody that's here, because the fact that we show up for our people in every possible different way we can is yay for us, because it's not easy. So thank you, Jennifer. I'm really grateful.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you for coming.
Yeah.
I really appreciate that.
And Terry, I'm glad your husband read a book, or 900 and something. I don't know, you wrote in the chat that he read 900 and some odd pages of, that's amazing. Like,
It is amazing. And you want to know, I'm so glad you're saying it, because this is so hysterical. Dan has absolutely positively zero short-term memory. Like, I cannot tell him anything and expect him to carry it out at all. Nothing. I tell him to go brush his teeth. He walks in the bathroom. He looks at the bathroom. He'll brush his hair. Maybe he'll pish. Maybe he'll brush his teeth. So there's nothing happening. He has also no executive functioning skills. So, like, eat a filthy, dirty mayonnaise tuna fish sandwich and then wipe your glasses with the same napkin, So there's nothing going on. Okay, so this morning he finished the book. All right. Now, this is the same morning that he decided to take the dental pick. And I heard him say in the bathroom, oh no. And when I went in the bathroom, the dental water jet, not dental pick, the water jet was up his nostril.
Well, at least maybe it came out the other way, right?
He was spraying, and then we figured that out, right? We stopped spraying the nostril, and then he went and sat down and finished his 948.
Amazing.
And hilarity for charity. I'm all over this because I find everything hilarious. I mean, it's hysterical. I mean, really, how can you not laugh? Your water.
Well, we'd be crying if we weren't laughing.
And I'm very much into laughing. So this has been like the best 3.5, 4, however many hours.
Yeah,
and
me
thank
too.
you, Jennifer. Thank you so very much for
Thank you.
everything. And I'm going to sign off now. Thank you. Thank
you.
you.
Too.
We have more in the caregiver lounge.
I want to go there.
Lounge. So if you all head
ladies,
over, feel free.
Bye. Thank you again.
And Danielle.
Yes. Hi.
Thank you. Hi, Danielle. I saw your kind note in the chat box. Would love to connect.
Yes, thank you. I definitely have a couple different questions and for you. So if you can,
Sure.
I think I might have your email. Do you have an email that you put out?
Yeah. So on the little flyer that I popped in the chat box has our contact info.
Okay.
And there's so we all answer. If you say Jennifer, then whoever answers it first will send it directly to me.
Okay, great. Great. This has been awesome. So, this is my first Hilarity for Charity event, CareCon, attending it. And, We put on our own events, but I really see this possibility of not just coming in. So I represent an association that has a lot of adult day healthcare providers in California, and at the center, it just really hit home when you start talking about what they can do as individuals, and of course they're professional providers, right? But they do also a lot of the disseminating of information to the caregiver, the direct caregiver, care providers, supporters themselves, right? Care partners, I love that too. So just all of it fits right in with what we do in that training, and always trying to find ways to develop that communication and strengthen it and have it the efficacy just really brought forward every opportunity we can. So we have 2 conferences a year, and so that's what I'll connect with you on. The other part of the question I threw in there, and I'm not sure, we're a 501c6 in California. We do have a 501c3 arm. It's called the Alliance for Leadership and Education, and they have worked on a lot of projects. They partner a lot with Dr. Tina Sandringham she works with NYU. And anyway, so on different projects in that, but I might make a connection there just to see if the director there would want to connect with you as well, to see what might happen with that, since the education components, of course, are there. So anyways, I downloaded the flyer, but thank you. This has been awesome and great work.
Danielle, you especially might be interested in the free, and it's free. And so, and it makes for a wonderful 6-week program for adult day for people who have been recently diagnosed, or because it is a guidebook, even though it's written by people living with dementia. Obviously, the ability to read is important. But we host it online, but it's a number of organizations have taken that and are hosting their own groups in person, and it's a free resource. So it's there for you if you have an interest.
Yeah, it would be good to share with our centers, because that's something that they could do there locally for their the participants' care. I'm going to try to change as much as possible to care partner, right? Yeah, that's great. So we talked to that in a lot of different areas, but that one, I don't know if that one has come up yet. So that's awesome. Well, anyways, thank you. Yes, I'll reach out.
Okay, good. I'd love that. Thank you. All right, everyone. I thank you for coming. I'm gonna sign off.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I hope. Oh, did you get my flyer? I posted it again.
Yes, perfect. I did get it. Thank you.
Excellent. My pleasure. Be well. Thank you for all that you do.
Likewise.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.